Welcome to Follow Your Joy podcast, where intuition is the doorway to your elevated creativity, more joy, and prosperity. I'm your host, Marla Diane, and I've been living an intuitive life for decades as a creative. That translates to transforming creative entrepreneurs' lives for over 27 years through two businesses as a business strategist and a life designer. And prior to that, an entertainment publicist and talent manager. Follow Your Joy is an entrepreneurial resource for creatives sharing their challenge to victory stories through the lens of listening to their intuition. It's time to make joy your inner GPS for life and business decisions rather than lean on your logic and reason first. You'll not only be following what is most authentic for you, but you will live the beautiful life meant just for you. Want to learn how to access, trust, or up-level your intuition? Join me in the conversation to find out how. Well, hello, creatives. Happy 2025. My goodness, how was 2024 for you? I know, a lot. I do hope that whatever your new, I call it desires and goals are for 2025, that you took whatever lessons and what you needed to know about 2024 and what worked, what didn't work, and bringing that into 2025 to really help you soar. So when I choose guests for podcasts, I come from, first and foremost, obviously an intuitive, place, given not only who I am, the purpose of the podcast, the premise of the show, and and how I operate. And I also look for creatives that have compelling stories. Right? This is all about storytelling. Right. And I look for the strength of what I call the human spirit. Right. So being a journalist, those of you that are new to the channel, I have a degree in PR journalism. I was an entertainment publicist for 20 years. I'm a writer. I'm a trained journalist. So that's what I mean by journalist. So being that writer and storyteller as the foundation of kind of my background and my talents, the story is what inspires people to relate as they apply it to their own lives and take action. Okay. So when I met my guest today, a month ago, at a women's global networking event here in LA, where we both live, and I listened to her story as she was introducing herself, I intuitively knew, she'd be a great guest for you, my audience. So our biggest transformations, which you will hear, are always when we evolve from a challenge, right? A crisis, a big wake-up call. I know you've all had one, large or small, whatever it is in your life. And my guest is no different, right? Salima Yacoubi. I love that. As she writes, my current career chose me through a crisis that became a calling. Boom. There it is. I love that. That's humanity at its best. And that's the core of her story and why she's here. So with a warm welcome, Salima, welcome to Follow Your Joy.
Thank you so much for having me, Marla. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine. So before we dive into our, our questions and so forth, our conversation, let me give you a proper introduction. So everybody, Salima from, which I love this, she's from Casablanca, Morocco. I love this. She lives in LA now, but that's where she's from. I don't think I've ever met anybody from Casablanca. And what she does is she guides CEOs, executives, and family businesses to build meaningful legacies. So while in New York, where she founded and led a successful consultancy helping global brands, right, establish their presence in the United States, she worked also as a UN-based journalist. This is so cool. And lectured on women in politics for master's students. And these experiences led her to develop a way to help leaders align their achievements with a deeper purpose. See where we're going here? You getting the theme already? Right? And her genius. So she's also writing a book on desire-driven leadership. We're going to talk about that. Exploring the power of desire. Wow, Miss Queen of Desire, right here. We're going to talk to another Queen of Desire. The power of desire, not just in corporate realms, obviously, but as a universal force, as in universal energy, metaphysics, everyone. She supports visionary leaders worldwide to transform their success into positive global change. That is humanity. That is transformation, and I love that. So let's start, Salima. Very good. With your background and so forth. So why don't let's have you share kind of the core story that you have, right? What challenge happened in your life that led you to this career in this business?
Absolutely, Marla. So it's a story about the body's wisdom and the cost of not listening to it. Because I was 25 and I had a health scare that got me bedridden for a year. And during that time, I had a lot of time to think, and I had the chance to meet a mentor. She's an artist, and she told me, "You have a crisis of desire." And this health scare was kind of, I call it my body's intervention to change course, to do something. And it led me to travel, to go to Patagonia, which was a very strong calling. It was extremely scary to leave my successful job at a bank and my comfortable life with family, friends, and a known certain setting to explore the unknown and to go to the end of the world. But I didn't feel I had a choice. I felt that if you want, during that time of crisis or physical pain, I realized that that we take life for granted, that in a blink of an eye, we can wake up and be stranded on a bed, and that we had to make the best of these few years that we have on this planet. So it felt like there was an urgency to live and to live fully and to be fully alive. And so I had to do it. And of course, it didn't happen overnight. I don't want to make it seem like it was seamless and easy. It was a very challenging process that led me eventually to quit my job and to embrace the very scary thing that is to leave my high heels and my tight dresses and to put on a backpack and travel the world for a year.
Well, okay, so there's a lot there. And we're gonna unpack a little bit of that because I don't know about you, everybody. I'm like going, so what happened? In other words, what is some of the details? What do you mean a backpack for a year and so forth? So give us a little more of the meat and potatoes, right? What, to whatever degree you feel comfortable, what was going on and what truly happened. And you kind of mentioned in that vast wilderness, something real emerged. So what sent you to there? and then what was going on there in Patagonia. I mean, there's so much that I want to hear. What?
Absolutely. So up until, I mean, 25 is still a young age. And up until then, I was following the motion. And I was doing what all of my friends were doing, following master studies. And I studied in Paris for 7 years. And then the right thing to do is to, find a job that's aligned with what you've studied and worked on. And basically, it was heavily influenced by societal norms. And and something in my body was resisting this way of being, of living, of following something that didn't belong to me. It didn't feel real anymore, even if on paper everything was perfect. But in terms of how I connected with life and my surroundings, it just didn't work. And again, it was not, and that's what's really hard when you're in it. It's like it's not one event that created this. It's just following without really pausing and thinking about what do I truly want. And thankfully, I had many guides along the way, many writers. Well, at the time, I was only reading French writers. So André Gide, who wrote The Fruits of the Earth, was a great inspiration because he talked about unlearning. And that was my mantra when I traveled. I want to unlearn what I know and have a reset moment where I explore the world through my five senses. And Nicolas Bouvier, who's another travel writer, these are figures that are, at least André Gide has existential influences, and all these philosophers and thinkers encourage you to find your authentic voice, your authentic self, and they promote freedom. And so these were my influences. And it took a long time because when you're bathing in an environment that's teaching you a way of being, it takes a long time to unlearn. So, yeah.
Okay. So what was it then in the wilderness, got your backpack on, you're in Patagonia.
Sure. Well, there's something about the word Patagonia. So for the Lacanians, people who love Lacan, who's a psychotherapist and who talked a lot about the meaning behind the words in the unconscious. And Patagonia in French, it sounds like no agony, pas d'agony. So I think that it was an incredibly deep calling to go to that land that resonated as a place of healing. And my soul, there was an echo there. And actually, when I went, it is like as I mentioned, the wilderness and these extremely powerful winds that sweep away all of the known to create space for the new.
Sure. So, of course. So what was it about you? Right? What was it about you that what needed healing? So tell us the details of any one thing that you want to share with others, because I think you realize, in these tales, in these stories of the human spirit, what's personal is universal.
Yes.
Okay. It's not specific to you. It's specific to everybody that can relate to it and help them heal. So help those that are listening, help them on the path or further the path of healing because they heard your story about what happened to you personally. What went on, what needed healing?
Sure.
Sure.
So Um, when the when I got very sick overnight, basically, again, I had a lot of anger. I didn't know what was happening. I was fighting a disease. There was a lot of physical pain,
Mm,
and this pain took all the space.
mm,
Uh, and actually, by taking all the space, it made me realize that my body was my own and that no one could come in and help me carry the load of that pain, that I was alone in that journey. And I had the realization that then, if it's the case, then I'll own the whole of my life and not just this episode. So these breakthroughs were very deep. I feel like I had a kind of a reboot of my programming during that episode. And and then when I met my mentor, I embarked on a journey of curiosity. What is this that's happening to me? What is the message of this health crisis? Because curiosity is the number one quality that can take you from a state to another in a gentle way, in an interesting and exciting way. So I started reading. I started reading a lot about psychology, again, literature and philosophers, and what's their take on this. And what I found is this universal message of being authentic to yourself, because if you're not, your body is going to react to that. And if I have one message, is like to embrace cultivating authenticity. And there are ways to do that, even if it sounds overwhelming. It sounds like there's so much to do to get there, but thankfully there are many avenues that one can take. Yeah.
okay. So let me see if I can summarize this so that it makes sense. I'm going to kind of connect the dots here and see if this is correct. So because you were leading a life that wasn't authentic to your soul, you were just doing a prescribed societal recipe,
Mm-hmm.
your body, the way that your purpose this time on earth, if you will, your body chose to go, yeah, no, sorry, this is not going to work.
Exactly.
Am I on the right path here?
Yes.
Okay, so you weren't leading, and this is not unusual. I mean, this is why I am so passionate about listening to your intuition. Your body is your intuition, Salima. Right? This is six senses, not five.
Mm.
So your sixth sense, which actually should be your first. Our intuition is our body. In fact, when we listen to our intuition, and I know you'll share, a little more of that story in a little bit, is that our intuition is from the neck down. It's not in the head. Right? Our intuition, which is our connection, it's in our heart, it's in our gut, it's in our body, it's in our vibes in our body, right? It's the condition of our body, right? In any certain way. But our intuition is what's connected to our higher power, right? It's whatever you want to call it. It's the universe. It's the channel in which this human 3D body is connected to the higher power, the universal force, as you call it, so that it helps you lead your life and make decisions that are in alignment with who you are, what you're meant to do, your purpose, how you're here to impact humanity. And when we have free will, which is what was going on with you and every human being on this planet, your free will, because you weren't conscious quite yet until your body went, hello, is that your free will is like, this is what I do. I go to school, I get a degree, I get a job, I did the same thing, right? We were all kind of fed that formula, not to listen to what was true for us. Okay. So am I on the right track?
100%.
100%. Okay. So as a result, was it a curable disease that you had? Was
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, yes. It took me a year to get over it. Yeah.
okay, so it was a curable disease of the condition that you had. And so what emotionally, now that you are being required to, and good for you for listening to that, because some people don't listen. I mean, it's pretty courageous to go, okay, I'm out of here. I'm changing my life. I'm going to go hike up in the mountains of Patagonia. It's like, I don't know many people would do that. And it's pretty courageous. It's very commendable. So you listened to your intuition that said, and that was in the form of your body going, okay, this is your life. This is not just your body. Let's get you on the track of where you're really going to make a difference in your life and others and why you were put on this planet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what emotions, what I want to hear, and I can, I'm a coach, I'm gonna pull this out of you, is that what were the emotions going on for you that were inauthentic? That was telling you you're inauthentic, besides the physical, you got the physical message. What was the emotional message about you not being authentic to your life?
So I've always been interested in writing, and I've been an avid reader my whole life. And I end up in this banking environment. And again, I just want to stress how pleasant the experience was.
Sure.
It was very challenging in the best way. And I had two bosses, and both of them were extremely inspiring. So I also want to say that these things can happen while you're having a good time, while you're being surrounded by great opportunities. So these two realities can coexist.
Yeah.
And actually, my boss at the bank is a woman who's incredibly inspiring and empowering, and she did empower me. She gave me the courage to own to be more confident, and I suspect that it is tied to my courage to leave the bank and travel. Although when it was happening, I was not thinking I'm doing something courageous. I was thinking I did not have a choice, because I think that faced with something as gnarly as physical pain, I realized that this is no joke. We can actually die, like after having only a year to live.
Yeah.
And my question at the early stages of this hardship was, what would I do if I only have 1 year to live? And the answer was so obvious to me. It was to travel the world and to meet different people. I had like all these National Geographic type images coming one after the other of faces from the Amazonian River, from Indonesia, Japan, all these countries. And I was hearing their languages in my head. And I thought, I want to meet these people who share our beautiful planet, So again, I didn't have a chance. There was an urgency to go,
Mhm.
and I was brought up in quite a conventional
Mhm.
family with conventional values. So this crisis really pushed me to my edge, and um, and thank God. I mean, it is a blessing.
Mhm.
In hindsight, it is a blessing. And today, when I'm facing a challenge, I'm looking for the golden nugget in it. What can I learn? I know that hardship is not a synonym of um, just difficulty. There's a message there. There's curiosity to open up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and what I call that often is there's always a gift in the challenge. Um, much like when I started this episode, I was explaining that, our biggest transformations in our lives are always precipitated by crisis, challenge. If you think about it in the simplest terms, I mean, look what happens to a caterpillar to a butterfly. I mean, they go through transformation and it's struggle to get out of that cocoon, right? They're changing, right? The metamorphosis of what they look like to what they become as a butterfly. That's a major change. And that's through then the struggle of getting them, pushing out of the cocoon and then being able to fly because of the strength of the wings to push open the cocoon that was holding them. But yeah, so what was happening, for you, and this is what I'm hearing is, first of all, when you said, what would I do if I had 1 year to live? I mean, was that a thought that really was kind of pushing you?
Yeah, it was, I had a couple thoughts during those early moments. One of them was, I don't have the luxury to live anything but my truth. And the other one was, what would I do if I have 1 year to live?
Got it.
And these came to me again, like, I don't feel I have any merit in these because they came under a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure, sure. That's two great questions. I don't have the luxury to live anything but my truth. That's actually great branding for you, by the way. You got to put that in your business. Because your branding, it's all, as in personal branding, it's all about you. It's not what you do, it's who you are. And so me obviously I've been doing personal branding for 30 years. I've been, putting these brands together for clients. I'm a coach, I'm a transformational. It's like when I hear that, it's like, that's you. So that's what I'm saying. That statement is a great statement to be put into your content. Okay, sorry, not to go there. But the answer that you gave when I asked about the emotional, it's like emotionally what was going on for you that needed healing. There was an urgency. It's like you woke up, your consciousness woke up that said, okay, if you had 1 year to live, would you still be at this bank? And like, obviously the answer is, as much as you enjoyed the people in the job, it was like, yeah, no, not at all. Of course not. I think if we all have that question posed to us, would we really be doing what we're doing right now? And that's a profound question, right? That apparently inspired you, ignited the fire in you to like, okay, let's go for it. What do I really want to be doing? Right? What happened. Okay.
Absolutely.
And yes, always, there's a gift in the challenge.
Yeah, and for those who want to go deeper in this question, what would I do if I have 1 year to live? I don't even know if it was later in when it happened, but Steve Jobs' commencement speech was all about that. So
yeah, I love that. Oh,
yes,
love that. In fact, I used to use there was I want to say a 5 or 6 minute clip from that on YouTube. It's out there somewhere. And I used to use it in my coaching because it was him talking about do what you love. Regardless, in other words, find something that you love. And how he was explaining, which I loved this part of the story, how here's the gift and the challenge. He got fired from his own company, right? And at the time that there was no gift in that. I mean, he was appalled. It was something so life-changing. It was a company he built and he got fired from it. But as he was sharing in this speech, which is truly, truly profound, which is, I got to be creative again. I got to be creative again instead of managing people and the business. In other words, he found the gift in that challenge, which he got to be creative again, which in that time period when he created, I think it's Next, he created Pixar, he created all this fabulous stuff. And then Next ended up buying Apple, and he was back at Apple again because Next bought Apple. And imagine, had he not been fired, he would have never created Pixar, which is now the world's top animation company. So, gift and the challenge, right? Gift and the challenge. So, yeah, I love this topic. It's so great. And your story is a perfect example of what is the gift and the challenge, and how are you going to heed the call, right? You're going to heed the call. Okay, beautiful. So let's talk about then moving into your, talk about your business. And obviously the theme to the podcast is follow your joy. So what brings you the most joy in your business? What brings you the most joy?
Sure. So I'm also an executive coach, actually, and what I love the most, because I have been through this crisis, is seeing the leaders I guide um, light up. I just love to see in their eyes that breakthrough moment, going from feeling stuck or not knowing what to do next, to aligning and finding the next opportunity that has meaning and that won't burn them out.
Yeah,
So when
nice.
they realize that, it is a beautiful sight.
Mm. And that's really key that you pointed out about, that's not going to burn them out, because that's a big issue today in this world, right? And let's just say in our country, which I address all the time. I think almost every coach does, about how you can achieve your desires and your goals, both of them, and they're two very different things, without the burnout, without the massive action and the hustle and the grind. And it's like, oh, please, there's a quality of life going on here, right? So good for you for pointing that out. So you love seeing your leaders, your clients, that is, light up. They can actually see if you will, the light at the end of the tunnel. They can actually take some action that's going to be more about their purpose. You also, I know you mentioned to me that you really love how prioritizing exercise is instrumental, like in the entrepreneurial performance. So talk about that as
Yeah,
the joy that you love to do.
yeah, absolutely. So when you work with leaders, CEOs, executives, they have a hectic life, and you realize that it's interesting to see them as athletes who need to protect their performance. So that's how I see them, and I accompany them around that. So there's a lot of emphasis on regular exercise. And I myself, I got into weightlifting, which is absolutely not my type of exercise. I mean, intuitively, I would go towards yoga and Pilates, but I discovered this and I was blown away because, again, as women, we're not invited to explore that side of exercise. And thankfully, it is changing. I see more and more women and younger women be interested in this.
Mm-hmm.
And the level of focus that I started to feel, and that the people I coach get to feel as well, is incredible. And then, I mean, I love geeking out on these things. So I went into the whole rabbit hole, the neuroscience behind it, because I thought, why weightlifting would give me this effect more than other forms of exercise.
Yeah.
And there's fascinating neuroscience behind it, and hormonal science behind it as well. So,
there's tremendous amount of benefit.
yeah.
Bones and hormones. And I mean, it's, and especially in, as you've probably been seeing, a lot of the baby boomers, which I'm in, the 50 and over, 50 to 70-year-olds, the big thing about, the bones, osteo,
Yeah.
challenges with the bones, the challenges with your hormones and so forth. So no, there's tremendous amount of benefits
And
from
the quality of focus. Who needs Adderall when there's weightlifting, you know?
Ugh. It's so, yeah, it's very healthy for the body as long as it's done obviously correctly. Okay, so you also really, the joy you love is the growth mindset. What
Oh,
part of that do you really enjoy doing?
I mean, and that's a beautiful transition because again, when you exercise, you do progressive overload, and it's a great example of what to do with your projects in your everyday life. Having this mindset that what counts is my effort, what counts is the system I have in place, rather than the results. Because when we think results, there's a lot of judgment, there is a lot of it has to happen yesterday.
Yeah.
When you trust the process, when you have a system in place, when you see incremental progress, um, that's key.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely key. Um, so in other words, instead of, let's see if I heard this right, instead of measuring results, you have them focus on the at least the effort to even get it done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's that there's this phenomenal book by Carol Dweck,
Mhm.
uh, about the growth mindset that I recommend to all of my
Oh,
clients.
okay.
Yes.
Do you want to share what that is?
It's called Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. And she is a specialist in positive psychology. She teaches at Columbia University.
Okay.
And this book is life changing.
Oh, give me the spelling of her name and I'll put it in the show notes.
Sure. Carol, Carole, Dweck, Dweck.
Okay, very good. We'll make sure we get that in the show notes. Thank you for that. Wonderful. So, okay, let's now kind of further the story and your life around the intuition. And even though we pretty much, established that whole experience, right, that whole change was listening to your intuition. Is there a Is there another story or one that continued from that one where you listened to your intuition, you knew it was your intuition, not your logic? All right, there's two different things, right? Logic is up here in the head, intuition is again in the body. That when you followed it, you ended with a, fulfilling result.
Oh my God, yes.
Uh-huh.
And that's the second episode after the Patagonia episode. When I came back from my year of travels, I started a company and I had some time. And my passion, as I mentioned, is writing, reading. So I thought I'm going to write articles for this news magazine that I really respected. And I reached out to them and thinking I would write an article here and there. But what happened is the editor of the magazine became a mentor and he invited me to write regularly. And I started as an intern, if you will.
Okay.
And so I left the job at the bank where I had kind of a senior role
Mhm.
and became an intern in this news magazine. And I knew that I was not interested in the prestige. I was not interested in like big titles,
Mhm.
that it felt so aligned. And I remember I was in the press room and I told my father and I said, oh my God, I'm like, they accepted me in this group. And then I started writing. And one day they sent me to New York to cover a story. And I never came back. I stayed in New York and I called my editor and I said, do you need a New York correspondent? And he said, of course. So I was a journalist in New York for many years, and I got to to have a desk at the UN and report on UN related stories. And I mean, this was way better than I could have envisioned in many ways. So
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, so that was the story behind the UN part of your life, being that journalist. That had to have been so exciting to be right in that world.
absolutely. And another message to your audience, that I mean, I call it audience, but I feel it's more a community because we share the same values and we look for the same things. When I got to New York, I didn't put any effort. There was no push. Everything was a pull. Everything was synchronicities. I would meet someone on a plane. Actually, it was from Paris to New York. I met this woman who worked at the UN, at UN Women, and she invited me, and that's how it started. I never applied to anything. And same thing within the UN. I was on an elevator with someone who taught me the ropes of what to do next. And I think that when you listen to your desire, to your truth, when you explore that authenticity, when you're on a quest to finding answers, things start to happen and to align.
Yeah, yeah, they fall into place for sure. Very good. So, what was it regarding the intuition, just kind of connecting the dots? So, what was it what was your intuition telling you that you listened to move over into writing, into journalism, and getting that internship?
The intuition was you have been wanting to write your whole life and you have an opportunity. Don't chase money or prestige or titles. Do what feels right.
Beautiful.
And yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. Very good. And look, being a writer, being a journalist, I get it. I mean, writing is an art. That's our creativity, right? Is writing just as much as visual and performing arts.
Yeah.
So when our artistry, and put it this way, our artistry is part of who we are. It's in our soul, it's in our, spirit, it's who we are. When we don't express that artistry, it's inauthentic and it shuts us down. We're kind of living a numb life. So when I hear that you listen to your intuition, that was, hey, you love what lights you up, what brings you joy is writing, and you're in a banking job that's far from writing. That also is really a terrific testament. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Totally get it. All right, my dear. So in kind of in closing here, give us just some key advice, right? Pick one of several, that are creatives that are listening that they can really, get inspired by, besides what you've already shared.
I would say, well, that's a transition, but don't chase success at the cost of being alive and really alive. And another important piece of advice would be to prioritize exercise. And this is no joke. It is very, it is it does 10x everything else. So that's like a health insurance. And yeah, and I think that exploring unapologetically the whole question of who am I, what's my authentic, where my authentic self wants me to go, what's the next step I can follow that drives me closer to my desire.
Love that. Okay. Very good. I love that. Don't chase success at the cost of being alive. Right. Listen, I mean, that's really the theme to everything you've been sharing is, listen to, again, the intuition, listen to your body, listen to what is being called upon, right? Okay, super, super. I love it. All right, so where can everybody, where can they find you? What do you have to offer before we sign off?
Sure, I'd love to continue the conversation. I'm at salimayacoubi.com,
Okay.
and I have a guide, a four-step guide on how to find your desire for specifically for your audience. So you inspired me to create it for them because currently I'm writing a book about desire, as we mentioned, and these are four easy steps to ignite that initial quest and journey to get there.
Beautiful. All right. And I'm grateful that I was able to inspire you to write that, because everybody, when we were talking pre the recording, I had asked her, what is her free guide and so forth, and she was sharing and this particular one, and she's, oh no, I as a result of listening to your podcast and really kind of studying, hence it's what a journalist does, like they do a lot of research, and I really acknowledge you for that, is that because I also obviously work with my women entrepreneurs around their desires. It's part of the creative achievement formula: desires plus goals equals transformation and result. That inspired her to come up with a non-existent, guide. And so it has inspired her. She did not have, and I asked her, I said, well, did you have one previous to meeting me on your site? And she says, oh no. So I am thrilled, everybody, in her own way, right? Because that's also Salima's focus is this four-step guide, right?
Yes.
Okay, so please go to, and it'll be in the show notes, the spelling of her website and so forth. Just go there, it'll be obvious. You fill in your email and your name, and you'll get the handout, right? Beautiful. Thank you so much. Your story, what went on with you, deserves a lot more than a 40-minute podcast episode. So everybody, reach out if you want to hear even more about her wisdom and what she did to change her life. But yes, thank you so much, Salima, for being
Thank
here.
you. And thank you for this podcast. I've been listening to every single one of them. And I
Yeah.
but there's so much, like all these golden nuggets that you can find in each episode. It's empowering to listen to them. So thank you for the work you do.
Oh my gosh, you're welcome. Look, I was, like I said earlier, when she was sharing with me that she listened to the episodes, I said, you listened to all 70 episodes? She says, oh yeah. I'm like, what? I, I don't think I've known anybody that actually listened to all the episodes. So thank you for that.
Yes.
And the whole purpose, obviously, is how it can inspire you. So apparently it did.
Mhm.
That's
Absolutely.
so cool. Love that. All right. So, everybody, how did Salima's story land with you? Right. I want you to walk away from this and even re-listen to this, because you're going to catch things the second time around that you didn't catch the first time. But I really want you to listen to and maybe write down, how she did this. And it was, the core of it was what? Listening to her intuition, right? Listen to her intuition. It's always within us. That's the power of this. Again, that's in the body, it's in the gut, it's in the heart, it's in the feelings. It's never, ever in your head. Intuition does not live in your head at all. Okay. It's your guiding light. So, speaking of intuition, are you at a stage in life where you're really at a crossroads of what's next for you? In other words, what's your next chapter? Okay. You were kind of wondering what that is. Maybe you're craving a new career, a new business, something to marvel at, something new to marvel at in your life. And maybe you're even empty nested. right? And it's time for a new identity, new dreams to achieve. Well, what I am really focusing on now and in 2025 is literally a life design mentorship. Okay. Yes, I've been doing this for sure with clients, but now I'm putting this to the forefront. And it's my 90-day new identity life design mentorship. It's called the Empowered, Intuitive, Confident Woman. Okay. So if that is something of curiosity, please, there's a link in the show notes for you to fill out a short form. I think there's 4 or 5 questions, and we get to begin a conversation. Okay. All right. I am all about, right? Let's keep the dream alive. Let's create new identity. Let's create new life design, all of that. Super passionate about it. So, all right, everyone, until next episode, happy New Year. And I'm always here for you, and be well and be blessed. Bye-bye now. Hey, thanks for listening. You can find more entrepreneurial stories and resources at marladiane.com. And while you're there, enjoy my free downloads to up-level your business and your life. And Instagram. It's my favorite place to hang out. Let's connect there. If you received inspiration from the episode, I'd sure appreciate a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Until next episode, take care.